So hello everyone, welcome back. In the previous video we have discussed about switch case statement, which is another type of conditional statement available in C. It allows us to selectively execute a part of the code. Okay, and in this video we are going to discuss about the concept of looping in C. Not just in C, it is available in all the famous programming languages which are available in the world. So we are going to learn about the concept of looping in today's video. So what is the concept of looping says? Let's just read the convenient definition, and after that I am going to explain you with two examples which will help you to understand it in a better way. Okay, so let's see about the concept of looping. Okay, so loop is a feature of C programming language which allows a set of code to be executed multiple number of times depending upon the condition. Okay, what does the C programming looping says? It allows a set of code to be executed multiple number of times. How many times? It will depend upon the condition provided. Okay, so looping is a feature of C programming language which allows a set of code or a set of statements to be executed multiple number of times depending upon the condition. So let's understand this with an example. So let's change my ink color to white. So now I'm going to explain you about the concept of looping. So let's assume that I give you a question over here. Let's assume I give you a question over here. Okay, so question is print hello world three times. Okay, so at this stage you should be very comfortable to write hello world three times on the screen. Okay, now see, there are two ways to do this. One way is using printf three times, which is the obvious thing you are going to tell. Printf hello world, right? You are going to do this three times. And also there is another way which is called which is called by using loops. Okay, using loops. You can also print hello world three times using loops, and also by the conventional way, which is the printf hello world three times. Okay, now suppose I tell you to print hello world 300 times. Okay, so let's change this 3 times to 300 times. Okay, so what will be the process for that? There will be two ways again. One will be printf hello world 300 times. You will write 300 times this printf hello world, and another way is using loops. Now you answer me a question. Is it very convenient to write a program which will just print hello world 300 times by more than 300 lines by using this 300 lines of printf? No. Why? Because writing printf 300 times does not make any sense when we have the concept of looping over here. By using this concept of looping, we can write printf 300 times, 3000 times, 30,000 times by using a single loop, which is of 4 to 5 lines. Okay, and this is of 300 lines. This is always of 4 to 5 lines, and this will be depending upon the number of times you want the output to be printed. So which is very convenient? Using loops, right? So using loops we can write, or we can make a set of statement or a single statement to be executed multiple number of times depending on our needs. Okay, so here what was the statement which was being printed using printf? What was the statement which was going to be printed repeated number of times? Which was this line, right? And using loops, what we can do? We can write like this: loop 300, or we can write here loop a. Okay, and we will write printf hello world, and done. So what this one will do? This one will printf or print hello world on the screen a times. What is a? We will just write a equal to 300 before this loop. So a has a value which is 300. So this loop will run 300 times. Okay, depending upon the value of a. So is this very convenient, or this one writing printf 300 times is very convenient? Obviously this one using loops, because it is not it will take a lot of time to write printf hello world 300 times, and the one who will read it afterwards will see or will find it very bad to read the same statement 300 times to get the desired output, right? So in this way, loop help us, or the concept of looping is a very powerful concept which helps us to print or execute a set of statement repeated number of times to get the desired output. How many times the set of statement will be repeated? It will be depending upon this variable, which is a. Okay, this variable has a special name which we will learn afterwards. Okay, at that time I will relate. So this was one question. Okay, now suppose I want you to print 1 to 100. Okay, we will print 1 to 100. How many times? Or say 1 to 1000 on the screen. Okay, as output I am writing. Okay, let's separate this space now, otherwise it will look like a mess. Okay, so what is the question now? We will print 1 to 100 as output on the screen. So how should we do this? There is again two ways: by using printf1, again writing printf2, by writing printf3, like that. So let's write over here two ways to do this: using printf1 \n. Okay, then we will write 2 \n 3. Okay, 3 \n 4 ... up to 100. So there is one way of doing this. You will write up to 100 over here. There is also one way to do this using loops. You can also use printf statement multiple number of times, 100 times, right? So this way you can do it. In loops, the advantage is you can do it with a very simple way. So in loop, what will you do? You will write loop a again. A is a variable which will tell the loop how many times to execute. You will write printf I. Okay, and then I plus plus semicolon, loop ends. And here we have to give a condition now, and before that we have to declare int I equal to 1. Okay, and so here we will give that I less than equal to 100. Okay, I'm changing the variable name to I just for the sake of understanding. Okay, so what this code will do? Loop I is less than 100. So this is the condition over here, how many times the loop will execute. Okay, so initially the loop's value is 1. So what will be printed? I, the value of I will be printed. So 1. This printf statement is just for understanding. Okay, it will become long to write the correct one. So I'm writing for explanation. So 1 will be printed. After that I plus plus. You already know what does I plus plus mean. I plus plus mean I equal to I plus 1. So I plus 1 will become 2. Okay, so again this one will be checked. 2 is less than 100. Yes, true. 2, 3, 4, like this it will be printed up to 100. So after printing 100, it will become 101. That time again when the condition will be checked, it will be coming as wrong because 101 is not less than equal to 100. It will become false, and so like that the code will terminate and it will print up to 100 like this. So how many lines we are taking over here? This is 1 line, 2 line, 3 line, 4 line, 5 line. Just in 5 lines we can print up to 100 by using loops. Whereas in printf we are using either 100 lines or we are making a very long statement to print up to 100. So looping enables or give us this feature to do single thing multiple number of times by using the loops. Here we are printing a statement, right? So a repeated number of time. The value of I is changing, that's very obvious, but we are using the printf, right? So this way we are taking the advantage of loops, which allows us to execute a statement or a set of statement repeated number of times. So I hope you got a very rough idea about what is the concept of looping. Okay, now let's see how many types of loops do we actually have in C. In C programming language, we have three types of loop. There is a while loop, there is a do while loop, and there is the for loop. Okay, we will discuss the while loop first, then do while loop, and third is the for loop. Okay, I know it's not visible properly. Let's change the color of ink to red again, or to black. Okay, now normally the do while loop is not very used very much, because this while and do while serves its purpose. So why use do while again to increase the complexity? Okay, not complex, but generally the do while is not used. Still, I will show you the syntax, I will give you programs, I will show you the code where we use do while to print. Okay, so let's go and see the syntax of while loop. But before seeing the syntax of while loop, we have to learn few terminologies. So let's see the terminologies or the parts of a loop. Loop has always three parts. Let's see what are the parts a loop can have. Okay, so let's see the next slide. Here we have discussed about the parts of a loop. In general, a loop has three parts. How many parts? Three parts. Okay, what are the parts? The part says that the first part is the initialization. Okay, the second part is the condition, and the last part is the increment or the decrement, whichever you can say, because both you can also use decrement, you can also use increment. Okay, one is the initialization, one is condition, which will determine the number of times the loop is running, and the increment and decrement of the control variable. Now here we have a new term, control variable. So what is a control variable? Let's see. See here in the next slide. Control variable, the variable which controls or determine the number of times a set of code is to be executed, is called the control variable. So what does a control variable do? A control variable is a variable which determines the number of times a loop will be executed. Okay, whether a loop will run 300 times or a loop will run 5000 times, it will depend upon the control variable and the condition which is applied. Okay, so if you want me to change over here, initialization, condition, determining factor of number of iteration of loop. Iteration means number of times the loop is being running. Okay, number of iteration of loop, and this one is also the same thing, control variable. It determines the number of times the loop will run. Okay, now if you remember that a few times ago I gave an example of loops in a very rough way. There, if we go there again, there if you see over here, I used I, here I used A. So what is this I and A? This I and A in this case is the control variable. What is this variable doing? This variable is determining that it is running 300 times. So similarly, the loop will run 300 times. Similarly, if you come to here, we have I over here. Okay, what does the I do? This is the I. This I is determining whether the loop is running 100 times or 1000 times. This is the initialization, that is int I equal to 1. We know what is initialization, to tell the compiler this variable is associated with this specific value. This is the initialization. Here we have the condition, and also this is the loop, and here we are updating the value of the control variable, which is determining the value of I, or number of times the loop is being executed. Okay, so up to this I hope it is clear, the concept of loop. Okay, now let us see the syntax of the while loop. After that we will run a code with while loop. Okay, so see here we have the syntax of while loop at last. Okay, so what is the syntax? We have while over here. This is the condition part where we write the condition. Then we write the set of statement, whether it is printf, whether it is another thing, we write over here, which is to be executed multiple number of times. Then we also have a part which is called the control of the variable for reaching the condition. Update the control of variable for checking the condition, right? We were doing I++ when we were printing up to 100, so that was the updating the control variable for rechecking the condition. So how does the while loop execute? Suppose this is the while. Here we have something condition, code, okay, code, and here we have the control variable which is updated every time. Okay, so what happens? The compiler enters from the top. It will check the initial value of control variable which is to be determined previously, which is the initialization part. So it will check the condition. If this condition is true, then only it will come down to the code inside this block, inside this while block, execute the code, okay, so one time, and then the control variable will be updated. Okay, so if I was previously 1 and it was correct condition, so after executing this code, the control variable will become 2. Okay, now if 2 is being satisfied by this condition, again this will be executed, the control variable, let's become, it will be 3. Again if 3 is being satisfied by this condition, variable, this code will execute. Now in case the 3 is not being executed, the code will terminate. That means this block will be terminated and it will be not be executed. So what is the diagram? If you want me to say, the diagram about the while loop execution, so we can simply write it like this: while condition. Okay, here we have the code. So compiler enters from here, it checks, does the code, if valid, if condition is valid, then performs the code. After that it again goes to the while loop, checks for the condition. If condition is invalid, then it terminates or goes to some other part, invalid. Okay, so it is a circular pattern. If the core condition is valid, check the condition, valid, then again do the code, check the condition, like this. Once the condition become invalid, then just terminate this part and go to the next part of the while loop. So this was where how we use the while loop for looping. So let's now perform a code. Okay, so here we have a code, print numbers up to 10 by using while loop. Okay, so let's do it. So let's go to VS Code, which is our obvious compiler for this case. So we are in our VS Code, so we will print numbers up to 10. So what we do, we will do the initialization part. Let int a equal to 1, because we are printing from 1. We will have the while loop now. While I less than equal to what? 10, because we are printing up to 10 obviously. Now we will write printf %d, 1 minute, printf %d, comma I. Then we have to update the control variable, which is I, so we will give I++. So our code is done, and for the sake of convenience I am writing a \n so that the output comes in a much more better way. So this was our code to print numbers up to 10. Let's see. So if you see the code, I missed a brace, I guess. Okay, so it will be I. It was my mistake. So let's do this. So we can see that the number is being printed from 1 to 10. So this was our code where we print numbers from 1 to 10 using while loop. The error was coming because it was int a equal to 1, and we run the control variable as I, so it will be i equal to 1. Okay, so if we are using a, we have to use a in all the cases. Okay, so this is how we print numbers up to 10. Okay, so let's now go to VS Code, the theory part again, and let's see what we have next. So we are back in here our while loop part. We learned the use of while loop, and let's see the next question what we have. We have the syntax of do while loop. So what is the do while loop? So it has do, we will write do over here, brace opens, brace closes over here, then the set of statement to be iterated multiple number of times, then we have to update the control variable for checking the condition, and then after writing that we will close the brace, we will write while and then condition, and then importantly a semicolon. Now see here, where is the condition being checked? If we consider the syntax of while loop, it was like this: while condition, then here the code, right? So what happened when the compiler was executing? The compiler checked while reading this, compiler checked from here, check the condition first. The compiler checked the condition first, that is, if condition is satisfied, whether this condition is satisfied or not. Yes, condition satisfied, then obviously run this part. Okay, if condition is not satisfied, then exit this code or skip this part. Okay, now in case of do while, if you compare this, where the condition is being checked, the condition is being checked at the last. So what will happen? The compiler will execute this entire thing one time. Okay, then it will check for the condition. Okay, now if this condition is true, then very good, it will again go to the do part and then again execute. Now in case the condition is false, the loop will execute only once, that was the first time, and then it will not execute again. So what do we have an important conclusion over here? In do while loop, the code block execute at least once, if condition is false, unlike while loop. Okay, why? Because in do while the condition is checked at the last, and in while the condition is being checked at the first line itself. In the first line itself, if condition is wrong, the code will not execute, the part in the while loop. And in the do while, after executing the entire code in the do part once, at the last, when the condition is being checked, at that time, if the condition is true, the code will again execute. If the condition is false, the code will not execute. Clear about this much? Now let's learn how to write a code in do while with the example. So the question says print 1 to 100 using do while loop. Very simple. Let's do it in our VS Code. So we are in our VS Code, and let's see how we implement do while. So we have to print up to 100, so it will be 1 itself. So we will write like this. We will cut this from here. We will write, paste it over here, while I less than equal to 100. We will change this to 100, then a semicolon, and here we will write 2. Our code is done. So what this code will do? This code will print up to 100. Let's run this code again. So if you see, up to 100 is getting printed. I'm scrolling down. This is 1 to 9, and this is up to 100. So in this way, we implement the do while loop. Okay. Now I'm showing you a case where when this condition will be false, that is while I equal to 100, this condition will be false, but still 1 will be printed. So what we will do? We will see I less than equal to 0. Okay. Now I is 1. That means this condition is already false. But since the condition is being checked at the last, the code will at least run one time, and then it will check the condition. So if we clear out this part, Okay, and when we run this code, it will print the value of I, which was initially, that was 1. So this answer will be 1, but this condition will be false. Let's see. See, it is printing 1, and after printing 1, once the code is finding, or once the compiler finds this condition while I less than equal to 0 as false, this does not go to the do part again, and it returns 0, that is terminates by printing only 1. So this way we implement do while loop in our code. Okay, now let's see to our theory part, and we will learn the last part of the looping, which is the for loop. Okay, so we are back in our do while loop. So let's go to the for loop now. So we have the syntax of for loop. So for loop, in for loop, the initialization condition and the updating of the control variable, we can do it in a single line itself. So here we have initialization, we have condition, and we here update the control variable. So let's read it. So for initialization, where we will initialize the control variable, then we have the condition, which will be the stopping condition, and here we will update the control variable to terminate the condition like that. And here we have encodes the set of statement which to be executed multiple number of times. Okay, so let's see our example over here. What we have, print 1 to 100, the same program again, but here we are using for loop. Okay, so let's see how we do this. So let's go back to our VS Code. So we are in our VS Code now. So we will do it the same thing with my for loop. Okay, so what will I do? I will remove everything. Okay, so for will now initialize int I equal to 1, because you are printing from 1. Then I will do the condition, how much times you want to print the value of I. It will be I less than equal to 100. Okay. Then again semicolon. The last part which we have is we have to increment the value of I, so it will be I plus plus, and then we will print f the value of I, which is %t, comma I. So that was all about printing up to 100 using for loop. This part is the initialization, I equal to 1. This part is the condition, I less than equal to 100, then I plus plus. Okay, so let's print this. Okay, so I missed out a backslash n, so the output is coming like this. So let's give backslash n over here. So yeah, output is coming like this, from 1 to 100. Clear about this much? So I just missed a part to explain you, that is how the code is being executed in the while loop, how the execution goes on. So let's see. So here we are back in the theory part, and now I just missed the part to explain you about the process of execution of the for loop. So let's come back. Yeah, so how is the compiler executing the for loop? So it will be for int I equal to 0. I'm taking an example. Okay, I less than equal to 100, the same example which we did just now, few minutes earlier. Then code open. Yeah, here we have the code. Now what happens is the compiler comes from the top, compiler initializes I, it checks if I is less than 100, if true then it executes, if I is less than 100 then the compiler executes. Now I plus plus is not implemented. Okay, so I'm sorry, so if I is less than 100 then it executes. Once execution is done, then brace close, then again it comes to the I plus plus part. Okay, it comes to the I plus plus part where the value of I is incremented. Now from I plus plus, after the I plus plus is done, it will again go to the here. I'm sorry, not go here, it will come to here. Then after doing I plus plus, it will see over here if I plus plus or the value of I is less than equal to 100. If true, then very good, execute this code, and again when it finds the brace closed, again it will come over here. It will again increase the value of I, and then again it will check if the condition is true. If true, then again execute. Now in case the condition become false, then from here itself it will terminate to the next part of the code if something is present over here. So this is the way of execution of for loop for understanding purpose. Okay, so let's now solve few programs with the three types of loop. But before solving, okay, let's first solve it. Okay, after solving we will understand few things, which we have the endless loop and the other thing we have. Okay, so let's see the first question. What it says: write a C program to print all natural numbers from 1 to n. What is n? N is user input. Okay, what we have to use while loop. Okay, so let's write over here the code what we have in VS Code. So let's go to VS Code. We are back in VS Code, so we have to print all natural numbers up to n. So we are in our VS Code. We have to do it with while loop. So we have to declare a variable which is initialization. So int a equal to 1, because we have to print from 1. Now we have to declare n also, which is the stopping variable. So we have to print the value of accept the value of n from the user. So scanf scanf percentage d, and then we have ampersand comma ampersand a, n, because we are accepting the value of n. Then we will write while a less than equal to n. Okay, then we will printf. We will print the value of a. Why? Because the value of a is going to be incremented each time. N is the stopping variable, which will stop the execution of the code, up to which the code will print, and then we will write a++. Okay, so I did a mistake over here. It will be percentage d, and here we will have a. Okay, so this was all about the code. So let's run this now. Let's clear it. Okay, let's run this. So it is asking us for the value of n. So let's give it to 30. So it is printed up to 30. So 1 to 30. So let's run it again and give some other value. Let's give it to 12 now. Like this. You can also give big values, say 1000. It will print like this up to 1000. Okay. So this way we implement while loop and print up to natural numbers up to n, that is from 1. Okay. So let's go to next question. See the next question what we have. Write a C program to print all natural numbers in reverse, that is from n to 1 using for loop. So this is thus the reverse of the same thing, but we will implement the for loop now. So how we implement for loop? Let's go to VS Code and see this. So we are in VS Code. So we will now print natural number in reverse. Okay. So here we have already accepted n. So what we are going to do, we will just delete this part. We will write for. Okay, we have to do the initialization. So let's remove a from here. Okay, so for int I equal to n, because we are printing from n to 1. Okay, it will be semicolon n greater than equal to 1, and then we are reducing the value, right? So it will be I minus. This one will be I. For I equal to n, that is from n we are printing, right? So I will be greater than equal to 1 and I minus. And what we will print? We will print the value of I. Printf percentage d comma I. So we are done with our code. Okay. So let's see. So here it is asking us from the value of n. Let's give it to 100. So I missed out a backslash n, so it is coming like this. So like this it will come. So if we give the value of n to 12, so it is coming 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6 and up to that 1. If you give another value, say 100, so it will come from 100 to 1. Okay, I was scrolling. Okay, so this was about code where we print natural numbers in reverse up to 1. Okay, so let's go to our theory part and see the next question. Okay, so the first two questions are solved. This question is solved, this question is solved. Let's see program number 3. It says write a program to print all alphabets from A to Z using while loop. Now for this we have to learn a thing which is called ASCII code. all the characters we see in the keyboard corresponds to a code which is ASCII code. If you go to the internet and search about ASCII code, then you can get a chart. Okay, so for that, A has the ASCII code of 65. So A has the ASCII code of 65. B has a ASCII code of 66, and like this it goes on increasing up to Z. So if you calculate the number of alphabets in our alphabets in our English, that is 26 alphabets. So up to how much we have to run the code? That is from 65. We have to run the for loop from, it is saying while loop. So we have to run the while loop from 65 to 65 plus 26. Okay, so let's see. So let's go to VS Code. So we are back in VS Code. Here it is said us to print alphabets up to Z, from A to Z. Okay, so let's see. So we don't need the input part also. Let's comment out. So while it will be A, which is the character, or you can say, let's consider it to be an integer data type. So while A less than equal to, so what is the sum of 65 plus 26? So the sum of 65 so sum of 65 plus 26, if you calculate it, it will come 91. So equal to 91. Okay, so if you run this, and now we will printf, printf. So what we will do here is, we will convert the code, we will convert now the integer to the character. So we will do nothing, we will just write %c, so which is the format specified for character. So what happens is that the integer value will get converted to the corresponding character of the ASCII value according to the ASCII chart. So what is the variable whose value we are printing as character? That is A, and we will add A, which is increase the value of A by 1, so it will be A++, and we are done. So let's declare int A equal to 65, and we are done. Let's see what we have answered. \n over here. So let's see. So it will be less than, okay, up to 90 we are printing. So see here. So it's coming from A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, and up to Z. So in this way we print our alphabets up to Z. Okay, I hope it is clear. So let's go to the next question what we have. So we did this using our while loop. So let's see the next question. So the next question says that write a C program. This one is also done. Write a C program to print all even numbers between 1 to 100 using for loops. So from where does the even number start? Even number starts from 2. So how much we have to increment the control variable? That is by +2. So let's go to VS Code and do this. So we are in VS Code. We are going to print even numbers up to 100. So we have to make this or erase everything. Okay, we will just run the initialization like this. For int I equal to 2, which is the starting value of the even numbers, and then I less than equal to 100, and this time it will be I plus equal to 2. Plus equal to 2 means I equal to I plus 2, because we are incrementing the value of I as 2 to print all the even numbers. So even number, difference between two even numbers is always 2. So we are incrementing I by 2, and now what we will do? Now we will print the value of I, which will give us the even numbers up to 100. So it will be %d, I. Let's give a \n. So let's print it. So here we are getting even numbers up to 100 from 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, like this. Okay. So this was how we print even numbers up to 100 using the for loop. Okay. So if we go to the next question in the theory part, let's see what we have. Okay, so we are in the theory part. We have the next question. It says that write a C program to find sum of all natural numbers between 1 to n using for loop. So what we are doing over here, we are finding the sum of all natural numbers between 1 to n. N is user input. So 4 is also done and 5 we are going to solve it now. So let's go to VS Code. So here we have to declare another variable which will store the sum. And for this case we have to take n also. So we are including this in our program and we are not printing it anything in our for loop. Okay, so we are just calculating sum. So it will be sum equal to sum, or you can also write sum plus equal to I. So what does that mean? It will be sum equal to sum plus I. So it will be from 1 to n because we are calculating the sum of natural numbers from 1 to n. So we are calculating the sum and storing it here. Okay, and we need to declare sum also as integer data type, int sum equal to 0. Okay, and after calculation it will printf printf sum. Sum is %d comma and here we are printing sum. Okay, done. So let's run this code. So here it is asking us for the value of n. Let's give it to 5. So sum is 15. So if you do this in the manual calculator, that is 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, it will give you 15. So answer is coming exactly correctly. And if you want to give any other value, say let's give a very big number, say 100. The sum is 5050. So this way you can calculate the sum of n numbers up to n from 1. Okay, so we have to do nothing. We have to store the sum in the for loop to calculate it every time, and then we have to print sum separately outside the loop. Okay, so if you practice this, the more you practice, the more you gain confidence in looping, and the power of loop or the concept of loop is very important and powerful. We will implement this complete power of loop and these things in the data structure part, and also in the next videos also, that is the arrays, the 1D array, the 2D array, we are going to implement loops over there very much. So we have to practice loops very much to get confidence over here. We are also going to do strings with looping also. So this was all about the for loop. So let's go to the theory part, and next we have to discuss two things. Only two topics are remaining in this loop, that is the entry control loop, exit control loop, and the endless loop. So what is the entry control loop? This is just the theory part. I am giving a reading. You already know, I have mentioned while teaching you. So the loop in which the condition is checked, loop in which the condition, again. I don't understand why it is not printing. So loop in which condition is checked before entering into the loop is entry control loop. Loop will never execute if condition is false. Which are the loop? Two types of loop I am talking about. I am talking about the while loop and the for loop, where the condition is checked beforehand before entering into the loop. But there is also a loop where the condition is checked at the last. That is the loop in which the condition is checked after entering into the loop at least once. Is called the exit control loop. So the loop will execute at least once if condition is false. Okay, so it is a do while loop. If you want me to write over here, so this is the definition of entry control loop. Which is controlling the entire loop. At the entry only it controls the entire loop, and this one is the definition for exit control loop. So if somebody asks you about the difference between the for loop and the do while loop, so you can say that for loop is entry control and do while is exit control. And for loop, if you have the condition checking at the first, if the condition is false, the code will never execute inside the for loop. And in the exit control loop, in the do while loop, the code will execute at least once if the condition is false. Okay, so this was about the exit control and the entry control loop. Very simple. Okay, now we have the last part, which is not very important, but still it is the infinity loop. So let's read it. Infinity, endless loop, non-terminating loop is the one loop which gets executed multiple number of times without a stop. Okay, so when can this happen? It can generally happen When can this infinity loop or non-terminating loop happen? It can happen when the condition which stops the execution of the loop at every time is true every time. That means the condition which is checking the number of times the loop will execute is true every time. The condition is true, so for that the loop is executing multiple number of times. And it can also happen when we do not update the control variable value each time the loops get executed. So updating the control variable is very important to avoid this infinity loop or this endless loop. Okay, so we will now implement this, or we will just see how we have implement an infinite loop and endless loop. So it is not a compile time error, but this is a runtime error which you can obviously avoid by writing the condition properly also, and by also updating the value of control variable. So what we have next, so we will make an endless loop using while loop, for loop and do while loop. So let's see how we do this. So let's go to VS Code now. We will see how we implement the concept of we'll now see how we implement the concept of endless loop over here. Okay, so remove everything, so it will be like this. So we'll skip everything. So int a equal to 1, okay, then no condition, we'll just keep the condition, okay, and then no increment also. So this is an endless loop, so we'll print the value of a. So value of a will be printed every time as 1 only. Okay, so let's run this code. I hope it's clear. So we will now run this code and let's see how infinity loop is getting executed or being printed. So what this code will do, this code will print a as 1, that is 1 multiple number of times. Let's see our computer getting hanged. So this way our computer is getting hanged. It is printing 1 1 1 1 1 infinity number of times, because why? There is no stopping condition or no updation also of the control variable. So this way we implement the concept of endless loop using for loop. So let's delete this and stop the execution of the code. Okay, now we are going to do the same thing by using while loop. We will do nothing, we will write while. So if we write while say not 0, the condition will be true every time. So let's see. So see here, the 1 is getting printed multiple number of times as an infinity loop. So this way we implement endless loop or infinity loop by using while loop. Okay, so let's see how we implement the do while loop for doing the endless loop. So we will change this or cut this condition from here, copy this, we will paste it over here, then semicolon, and then do while. Do while and while is mostly simple thing. Okay, so what happens here? So the same thing, that is 1 is getting printed endlessly. So this way we implement for while do while to print endless loop. See, endless loop is not a compile time error, it is a runtime error. Okay, because at the runtime only we are getting the error and the program is compiling correctly, right? So let's go to our theory part and see if we have the next. So here I am writing that endless loop is you can consider it as an error. So you can write endless loop is a runtime error. That is, error is coming when the code is running, runtime error, not compile time error. Okay, now you can also implement endless loop by writing for loop like this. Okay, just for the sake of convenience I'm saying, and for while you can do, we have learned this, that is not 0. Okay, so we can do endless loop or non-terminating loop by using these two conditions for having fun. It is not a productive thing. Okay, so endless loop is a runtime error loop, runtime error, not compile time error. That's all for today. We'll see you in the next video, where we will print various kinds of pattern using C. We will printing pattern, various kind of pattern using this concept of looping. Okay, so that's all for today. you can practice few codes of implementing loop in your code program, and this concept of loop has to be very important for us because it is going to help us in near future where we implement the concept of arrays, okay, and also strings and also the patterns. So that's all for today. See you in the next video. Keep learning and keep exploring.